The Rothschild family name is synonymous with conspiracy theories, global banking, and many other things, but it's most synonymous with old money. During the Gilded Age, the family held the world's largest private fortune. They were among just a handful of families accepted into both European and American aristocracies. No family was more powerful or wealthy than the Rothschilds, even though they were a non-royal dynasty without physical power. Many Rothschild family members were lords, and they had an unusually grand coat of arms. With all this in mind, you might be shocked by how humble the beginnings of this dynasty were. A series of wise and decisive steps were taken to build their financial empire and forge their political influence. Rothschild is a German name meaning red shield. Like many poor medieval families, they at first had no surname, so they chose Rothschild simply because a red sign was above the door of their house. They weren't an important or even really an interesting family until the 1700s, when Meyer Rothschild came to prominence. As a Jew, he was only allowed to live in certain areas, known as ghettos, but this gave Meyer the chance to become a court Jew, a type of banker only Jews could be, as the Bible doesn't allow charging interest on borrowed money. As Jews had no need to obey the Bible, monarchs would hire court Jews to do this for them. Meyer's father was a silk and coin trader who dealt with Prince Wilhelm of Hesse. Through this connection, Meyer became banker to one of Europe's most wealthy men. Meyer himself became fabulously wealthy and respected by powerful people. This paid off during the French Revolution when he helped fund the Austrian army. This was when he realized there was more money in lending to royalty than to civilian business people. He taught this lesson to his children as he knew the family's success would depend on their actions. He sent each of his 5 sons to the most wealthy kingdoms in Europe, where they established their own banking businesses. In time they grew, and the Rothschild family held influence in Frankfurt, Vienna, Paris, London, and Naples. He taught them exactly how to succeed in business and to gain influence with politicians. He also taught them that knowledge is power. After his death, they built Europe's most efficient courier system so they would hear important news before anyone else. To make sure their communications could not be intercepted, they wrote to each other in secret code. They knew things other people didn't, and they used that knowledge to manipulate the markets. It was like the original insider trading. And on that note, something else they did to protect the family fortune was an astounding amount of incest. This tragically kept the family close as they built their financial empires in each country. They really flourished during the Napoleonic era, lending the equivalent of hundreds of millions of dollars to the enemies of Napoleon. Funding war efforts, they gained the favor of monarchs, making large fortunes and being awarded titles. In 1843, Salomon Rothschild became the first ever Jew to be awarded honorary Austrian citizenship. 20 years before that, he was made a lord and therefore accepted into the nobility. The Rothschilds were accepted into the nobility of other European countries also. They had a specific strategy to infiltrate high society. Part of it was to marry members of other noble families. Another part was to diversify their business interest, so they used their banking profits to invest in all kinds of finance as well as transport and mining. Through this, they gained influence over resources governments needed and services their populations relied on. As European economies rapidly grew during this time, their wealth skyrocketed, and with that, their power. The Rothschilds funded many of the largest government projects across Europe. They essentially bankrolled Europe, not entirely by themselves, but more than any other family or institution. It's easy to see where the conspiracy theories come from, as those who have the most financial power in a country will always have disproportionate influence. As was allegedly said by Meyer Rothschild, "Give me control of a nation's money and I care not who makes its laws." Even if he didn't say it, the family clearly held massive influence over politicians. They funded Cecil Rhodes, who built a monopoly on diamond mining in South Africa. By the mid-19th century, the family held the largest private fortune in modern history. They were not expected to kiss the Pope's feet when meeting him, but kings and emperors were expected to. Going into the 20th century, they were absurdly wealthy, being the largest shareholder in De Beers. They had acquired ownership or part ownership of asset-dependent industries, which they knew would keep providing income. Mining, oil production, rail transport, real estate, things like that. Many of those businesses still make them money today. They also remain a key component of the international banking system. Their largest holding company alone has assets worth over $60 billion. The net worth of the family is estimated to be at least $350 billion, with higher estimates over $1 trillion. They remain an incredibly wealthy dynasty, and they got there through investing in assets that will continually give an income, through decisive networking making themselves needed by powerful allies, and through centuries of inbreeding. We don't know how much power they hold today, but there was a time when the family bailed out the Bank of England, and as one German economist once said, there is but one power in Europe and that is Rothschild.